Enclosing an existing covered porch with screens simply requires you to build a stud wall or walls along the open sides to create surfaces for attaching the screen. In this case, we have two open sides with a column in the corner. While we could build right up to the column on each side, instead we will remove it in order to create a much cleaner look. We're using a hydraulic jack and a 4x4 post to slightly lift the beams the column is supporting. This allows us to remove the column, making way to build our screen wall. The walls will be constructed from pressure-treated 2x4s, which we have primed and painted ahead of time. Since most patios slope for drainage, the height of the studs may not be consistent, so we're measuring separately for each one. By stacking the two horizontal 2x4s that will form the top and bottom plates of the wall on the patio, we can measure from the top of them to the beam and determine the height of each stud at each location. Because of its length, we're building the long wall in two pieces with the seam in the top and bottom plates offset from each other. We're building the walls on the ground so we can nail the studs to the plates from the top and bottom so fewer nails are visible. Once we lift each wall into position, it must be adjusted so that the offset from the outside of the beam is consistent and the studs are all perfectly plumb or vertical. Now the wall can be secured to the beam and adjoining walls with nails. To secure the base plate to the concrete slab, we're using a powder-activated nail gun. The weight of the beams above it will be spread out over the length of this long wall, so with it in place, we can lower the jack and remove the temporary post. The shorter wall will include a screen door, and the size of that opening will depend on the size of the screen door being used. Just make the opening 3/8 of an inch wider and taller than the door itself. The horizontal board above the door is called the header, and we're leaving one side of ours loose until the wall is installed. This allows us to level it in place rather than position it with measurements. When both walls are complete, we add more horizontal pieces between each stud at about 36 inches off the floor. This stiffens the frame and will give extra support to the screen material over a long span. We're using 36-inch wide screens, so we've spaced our studs to allow about an inch of overlap on each side. Installing the screen is as simple as rolling it out over each open space and stapling it every few inches along all sides. The important thing is to avoid wrinkles without pulling the screen so tightly that it stretches it out of shape. At the smaller spaces near the corner, we cut off all of the excess screen along the outer edge of the studs. To cover the staples, we're nailing up treated wooden lattice strips along the edge of each stud. These are also pre-primed and painted like the studs to minimize painting with the screens in place. Once the screen door is installed in the door opening, the room is complete.